So we are now in Module 4 in the subject Applied Economics. And in this module, we will discuss about the Porter's 5 forces analysis. So before we will jump into our lesson, we will have a pre-test first. Number 1, it is a framework or a guide for assessing and evaluating the competitive strength and position of a business organization. A. SWOT analysis. B. Environmental scanning. C. Porter's 5 forces analysis. And D. Marketing research. The answer is letter C. Porter's 5 forces analysis. Number 2. He developed the Porter's 5 forces analysis. A. Michael E. Porter. B. David G. Porter. C. Phoenix F. Porter. Or D. Henry D. Porter. The answer is letter A. Michael E. Porter. Number 3. It refers to the ability that customers have to drive lower prices. A. Threat of substitute products. B. Bargaining power of suppliers. C. Competitive rivalry. Or D. Bargaining power of buyers. The answer is letter D. Bargaining power of buyers. Number 4. This force examines how easy or difficult it is for competition to join in the industry being examined. A. Threat of new entrants. B. Bargaining power of suppliers. C. Competitive rivalry. Or D. Bargaining power of buyers. The answer is letter A. Threat of new entrants. Last number. This force studies how easy it is for consumers to switch from a business product or service to that of a competitor. A. Threat of substitute products. B. Bargaining power of suppliers. C. Competitive rivalry. Or D. Bargaining power of buyers. The answer is letter A. Threat of substitute products. Now, let's proceed to our lesson. The 5 forces model was originally developed by Michael E. Porter of Harvard Business School. So Porter's 5 forces analysis is a framework or a guide for assessing and evaluating the competitive strength and position of a business organization. So Porter's theory identifies the 5 forces that determine the competitiveness and attractiveness of a market, and which seek to locate the power in a business situation. So its current competitive position and the strength of the position that an organization may enter into. So again, according to Porter, the origin of profitability is identical regardless of the industry. So in that light, the industry structure is what ultimately drives the competition and profitability, and not on whether an industry produces a product or services, is emerging or mature, high-tech or low-tech, regulated or unregulated. So we will discuss about the Porter's 5 forces, which are the competitive rivalry, bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of buyers, threat of new entrants, and lastly, the threat of substitute products or services. So let's discuss first about the competitive rivalry. So this force examines how intense the competition currently is in the market, which is determined by the number of existing competitors and what each is capable of doing. So the rivalry competition is high when consumers are easily switched to a competitor offering for little cost. Number 1 force, bargaining power of suppliers. So this force analyzes how much power a business suppliers have and how much control it has over the potential to raise its prices, which in turn would lower a business profitability. And also, it looks at the number of suppliers available. So the fewer there are, the more power they have. Now, let's proceed to the number 3 or third force, bargaining power of buyers. So this force looks at the power of the consumer to affect pricing and quality. So the consumers have power when there are not many of them, but lots of sellers. As when it's easy to switch from one business products or services to another. So buying power is low when consumers purchase products that are small amounts and the seller's products is very different from any of its competitors. Number 4 force, threat of new entrants. This force examines how easy or difficult it is for the competition to join the marketplace in the industry being examined. So the easier it is competitor to join in the marketplace, the greater the risk of a business market share being depleted. So the barriers market share being depleted. So the barriers to entry include absolute cost advantages, access to inputs, economies of scale, and well-recognized brands. And lastly, the threat of substitute products or services. So this force studies how easy it is for the consumers to switch from a business products or services to that of a competitor. So it looks at how many competitors there are, how their prices and quality compare to the business being examined, and how much of a profit those competitors are earning, which would determine if they can lower their cost even more. So we will have an illustration here so that we can fully understand. So these are the 5 forces: rivalry among existing competitors. We also have bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of buyers, threats of new entrants, and threat of substitute products. So for example, in rivalry among existing competitors, these are the following example: number of competitors, diversity of competitors, industry concentration, industry growth, quality differences, brand loyalty, barriers to exit, switching costs. Now, for the example of bargaining power of suppliers are the following: number and size of suppliers. We also have uniqueness of each supplier's product and focal company's ability to substitute. Now, for bargaining power of buyers, we have here number of customers, size of each customer order, differences between competitors, price sensitivity, buyer's ability to substitute, buyer's information availability, and switching cost. We also have here threat of new entrants. These are the following example: barriers to entry, economies of scale, brand loyalty, capital requirements, cumulative experience, government policies, access to distribution channels, and switching costs. And lastly, the threat of substitute product. These are the following example: number of substitute products available, buyer propensity to substitute, relative price performance of substitute, received level of product differentiation, and switching costs. So this is the simplified illustration of the Porter's 5 forces. So after watching this video, you need to take the quiz 1 to 5, that is multiple choice, and after that you will have an activity regarding in this illustration. Thank you.